I'd like to draw your attention to an interview you did in 2009 with Al Jazeera. And with the chairman's indulgence, if we can play an excerpt of that interview.
Leadership around the world, there is
This is Molly from London. Go ahead with your question.
Hello, sir. Good evening. It's a very good proposition. But first of all, I believe, very strongly, I believe, the current leadership around the world, there is a moral failure going on. Unless they have a moral capacity to talk and do what they talk. For example, if you look at Palestine, there is a war crime and they are not dealing with it. But in Sudan, they are dealing with it and they are really biased justice. And if you look at Sri Lanka, the Tamils being killed, there is a genocidal war going on in Sri Lanka. Nothing being done. So there is a total moral
Molly, what is your question with regards to the issue we're talking about, the reduction of nuclear weapons?
My question is that leaders, there is a total moral failure. Unless we bring these leaders to a moral standard, nothing can be done. That's my question. What do you think about it?
Okay, thank you. Let me put that to the Senator.
Well, I think you're exactly right, and I said in my opening statement that that leadership is critical because we know in life nothing is ever accomplished without leadership.
Now, in that excerpt, Senator Hagel, the caller suggests that the nation of Israel has committed war crimes. And your response to that was not to dispute that characterization, but indeed to describe what he said as, quote, well, I think that's exactly right. I'd like to ask you, do you think the nation of Israel has committed war crimes?
No, no, I do not, Senator. I'd want to look at the full context of the interview, but to answer your question, no.
I mean, the context of that question, we played the entirety of it, and I wanted to give you that context so you can hear the question and you can hear your response. I would suggest that a suggestion that Israel has committed war crimes is particularly offensive, given that the Jewish people suffered under the most horrific war crimes in the Holocaust. And I would also suggest that for the Secretary of Defense or a prospective Secretary of Defense not to take issue with that claim is highly troubling. I'd also point out in 2006, your characterization of the nation of Israel's action, and that was in a speech on the floor of the Senate, you referred to Israel's military campaign against the terrorist group Hezbollah as a, quote, sickening slaughter. Now, I would suggest the characterizations. Do you think it's right that Israel was committing a, quote, sickening slaughter, as you said on the floor of the Senate?
Well, I think, again, I would want to read all of it, what I said. First, I've said many, many times, Senator, every nation has a right to defend itself. And
do you think a sickening slaughter would constitute a war crime?
No. Depends on they were attacked. Depends on many factors. If Israel was defending itself, there was slaughter going on both sides.
Does one typically characterize defending yourself against terrorism as a sickening slaughter?
No, but again, Senator, I'd want to look at everything because...
Okay, well, let's look at another excerpt from the same interview, if we can play the second excerpt.
We've got an email from Wendy Day. She writes to us from Georgia here in the United States, and she writes, can the rest of the world be persuaded to give up their arsenal when the image of the United States is that of the world's bully? Don't we indeed need to change the perception and the reality before asking folks to lay down their arms, nuclear or otherwise?
Mm-hmm. Well, her observation is a good one, and it's relevant. Yes, to her question.
Senator Hagel, do you think it's appropriate for the chief civilian leader of the U.S. military forces to agree with the statement that both the perception, quote, and the reality is that the United States is, quote, the world's bully.
I didn't hear her say that, by the way, the United States. And I think my comment was it's a relevant and good observation. I don't think I said that I agree with it.
With respect, I think the record speaks for itself. It was in writing that she said the U.S. is the world's bully, that it is the reality. And your response, you did say you agree with it. You said her observation is a good one, it's relevant. Yes to her question. You explicitly agreed with the characterization of the United States as the world's bully. And I would suggest that is not a characterization. I think the United States has spilled more blood, more treasure, standing for freedom, liberating people across the world, and to go on Al Jazeera, a foreign network, broadcasting propaganda to nations that are hostile to us, and to explicitly agree with the characterization of the United States as the world's bully, I would suggest is not the conduct one would expect of a Secretary of Defense.
Senator, she said that was an observation.
I will point out that her quote was the perception and the reality. And with that, my time has expired. I look forward to a second round of questioning.
Thank you.